Well, I'm so excited, delighted, and amazed to both have you here and just see what you're both doing. It's really like exciting to have two amazing women scientists working in this area and the fact that you're both here with us today. So let's give them one more big round of applause, please. So I have a few questions for them that we're going to talk about. And I'd like you both to answer this question. The pace of innovation across Earth, science, and space is incredibly fast. You've both seen a lot of change since you started your careers. What are the most impactful breakthroughs that you've seen over the years? Let's start with you, Lauren.
Okay, there's a lot, but just recently, heavy lift launch, that's going to be huge. That's how we get humanity out into deep space, back to the moon and Mars. It's coming. And then in terms of our awareness and just the democratization of space, that's what we call it. All this satellite data we shared with you and empowering each individual. Because it's data for everyone. It really is global coverage all the time, almost real time. So those are a couple.
Yeah.
I can get into space suits or life support, other things like that. I'll let.
Yeah, but the access to data, I think, is one of the things we were talking about backstage. Lori, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I discussed it. I called Earthrise with capital R-I-S-E that was to signal a renaissance in sensing the environment. To me, that is the combination of innovative ways to not only gather the data, but to store it and have access to it. And you could not have any of this, these key findings and all the information that Dava shared without the ability to access that. We recognize that government employees aren't the only ones with all the great ideas.
Yeah.
And so I think they've really done an excellent job of tapping a broader community to innovate in ways. I mean, that's the whole point, really, is to have the government invest in things that can be used beyond to help people.
In that public-private partnership, you're right, the ability to actually do things better, faster together. And that's why I tell everybody I love working with public sector, because we get to do the government side, the education side, and the not-for-profit, which can really come together and do things and then even make good recommendations both on the not-for-profit or the educational side back to the government. Even, startups, you don't have to be a not-for-profit, but it's just those great recommendations through learnings. So Lori, I'm going to come back to you on this question. How has the exponential growth of available data helped Earthrise Alliance fulfill your mission to combat climate change?
Well, so we wouldn't have even been founded without it, because our whole mission is to take data and make it more accessible to people who make decisions ultimately about our resources, to manage them better.
Yeah.
And obviously the data exists, so the real question is, how do you change behaviors? And our very smart people who do this, who are former NASA employees, data scientists, found and developed an algorithm that takes the available data and is able to source from private sector as well as government, and put it into a format, both apps and web-based, that allow you to see local change. The old phrase about acting locally, think globally, act locally, is so true. People care about what's happening in their backyard. And so it's very hard to source that information yourself. So the ability of our folks to take the data and put it into a format that is usable would not be possible without all the tools that currently exist.
It's so much fun, though, to see that individual. When I go around to small colleges or high schools, I hear students talk about that they're doing research because they have access to data now that's out there, and then that compute and processing that they need. So that we're hopefully creating those young educators, researchers who are learning more on their own just from the open data that's out there and the accessibility of it. So, Dava, let me ask you, Dave, let me ask you, you've spent a lot of time studying Mars, which I love. For those in the audience wondering about life in or outside our solar system, what technologies or discoveries on the horizon do you hope will eventually answer those questions?
Okay, so I love that question. But did I tell you Mars was my second planet after Earth's number one? But I have spent a lifetime. And so since we're searching for life, when we get there, maybe you saw The Martian too as well. We can talk to you about technologies for Mars there. It won't be all potatoes, but technologies we don't have today that we need: advanced life support systems and suits. And again, I mentioned the heavy lift launch. That's how we really do deep space exploration. So we'll get there, but we have 2 decades, I think, to get people to Mars. We were chatting before, other technologies and just other information that maybe everyone doesn't think about every day. I breathe and sleep and think about Mars every day. If you don't, we're looking for Earth-like planets as well. So they're called exoplanets. We have 6,000 of them. So a second Earth, surely, yes, it's out there. Surely, yes, there is life. It might be fossilized. But of the 6,000 exoplanets, we can't get to them anytime real soon because they're 10, 20, 100 light years out. But we're studying them. Why? Because we care about life here on Earth, and they have the building blocks of life. Closer in the solar system, we have something called ocean worlds.
Love this.
It's worked out pretty well for us here on Earth. Our oceans, I submit, hold the keys to climate because that's really the food source. That's the biodiversity, the oceans. All the systems are connected on Earth, generating the oceans, the atmosphere, the rain, everything else. So we're all interconnected. So we look around the solar system and we call those ocean world missions, because when you're looking for life, we say follow the water. And so Enceladus is a moon of Saturn. It should go to Europa, that's a moon of Jupiter. These are all ocean worlds, and they have the best probability to finding life.
I can't imagine what we haven't discovered yet. It is amazing, right, when you think about there's so many new discoveries. And we always say, oh, I'll hear people say, oh, we've discovered everything. Hardly, right? When I hear you all talk, you know that we are really just scratching the surface on discoveries. So a lot to be done. So this is for both of you. So maybe Lori, we'll start with you on it. You're both advocates, which I thank you for this, by the way, for building up the next generation of explorers, scientists, and leaders across space. What do you hear when you speak to those young students? And I love your perspective on young girls as well. How can we better encourage people of all backgrounds to explore the careers in STEM?
Well, I mean, this is a passion that we share, and of course NASA is a beacon for people who are interested in doing amazing things with science and technology. So we have them at Hello, and to me that is then we make the pivot to talking about the kinds of things that they can solve by studying what we're doing in science and math and engineering and the arts. I'm a big believer. I don't have a science degree. So to me, we do need to recruit everyone. And the challenge today, especially around climate, is not just the science. It almost is more of a communications challenge and a political challenge. Mm-hmm. I think we all have some idea. As a policy person, I know what I would do policy-wise if we had people understanding the challenge that's in front of us. We certainly have science and technology solutions. So I think it really helps to recruit people around a cause. Yeah. And NASA had that 50 years ago. We have been trying to recreate a cause a bit for the last 50 years. We had the space shuttle, we had the space station. It's very inspiring for a certain segment of the population. But I don't think it's everyone, and I think that Earth is.
Yeah, it's so true. I hear from girls a lot purpose when you ask them why they're not taking a computer science class, or when it's usually community, they want that community, and they seem to get a lot more involved when there's a purpose to what they're doing. And so back to your purpose, it's
look
a really
at the biological sciences.
Yeah.
There's more than 50% of med schools graduating women. They have that connection.
Yeah, so true. It's a really good point.
So it's always about the people. I call it STEAMed.
Yeah.
Very intentionally. I always bring in the artists, the journalists, the storytellers, who tells the stories. And I put a D on the end, because we have a whole new 3D maker generation out there. And I say, you don't want to be a rocket scientist? Breaks my heart, but that's okay. I think we've actually had the wrong conversation.
Yeah.
We made STEM a thing. And I talk to a lot of kids, especially young girls. That's not me. How do you know? You're 5 years old. How do you know you're not STEM?
Yeah.
So I think we have been having the wrong conversation. So now I have a different message. I say, you want to get people to the moon? You want to solve clean water? You want to help us with climate? Well, they're passionate. Everyone's equally passionate about that. They have to see themselves in our roles, and that's not enough. You have to make a really warm, welcoming environment. And we don't have the luxury to waste any resources. I need everyone at the table. So it really is through excellence and diversity. And I say, you know what, those big problems, well, I am an engineer. I love it. I have the world's best job. You don't have to be the best in math, calculus, physics, because how intimidating is that?
Yeah.
I say those are tools. I use physics and math every day, but they're just my tools.
Yeah.
The big picture is, you know, keep your eye on the prize. That's helping with climate. That's helping with exploration. So shame on us. I think we've actually been having the same conversation too long. It's not working. Surely if we empower everyone, we'll do better in STEM.
I love that, because one of the things I've always been an advocate for is if we could teach something that occurred, like if we taught as a subject, how did we get to the moon? That's that, and you teach every element, and you don't really see the difference between if it's math or physics or history. So along the way, you're learning, how do you build a bridge? What happened? You can do the history of the bridge, you can do the physics of the bridge, you can do the science of the bridge, the business and finance of that bridge, or you know, a rocket ship. So I agree with you. I think, you know, potentially maybe we have explored that too much and we're pushing in the wrong direction, when we should just be thinking about themes that we could teach and really getting all groups energized around that. I love that idea. I think we should explore that together.
But of course, the only reason we can is because the data is available. You had to just be one thing in the past, because the information wasn't available at your fingertips. So to me, we really do need to look at the way, not just that we're marketing it, but doing it, because interdisciplinary is where you get the real creative innovations.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The data tells you so much. If we even I talk about my own org, I'm like, I didn't really know what to look for until I had my data. I could talk about it, but I was talking about things I really didn't know. So, all right, this is our last question, and it's directed to both of you guys. So, well, actually, I'm going to ask for maybe words of wisdom at the very end, but what will the Earth, science, and space field look like in 5 years? Who wants to take that first?
I'll go ahead. I think we'll agree. It's going to look differently. My dream, my hope is, because I hope it's not disciplinary to this point we're talking about. I hope what it is it's cross-cutting, because I need to know about earth science and oceans and land and air, all the subsystems, and space. Because to me, it's actually just a spectrum. So as an aerospace engineering professor, we've taught for a long time. You know, you learn about aeronautics if you like planes, and we teach about, you know, aerospace, astronautics if you like space. No, it's just one continuum. So I think it is incumbent upon all of us to have a different conversation, and then as an educator myself, to really strive. It's really 21st century education. It has to be active, hands-on. What are the big problems we're solving? And then, okay, what are the tools? But those tools surely need to be cross-disciplinary. And it's just more fun. I learn a lot more sitting at the table with someone from a different background than I do with everyone who's trained like I am.
True. Putting a team together that has different thoughts and ideas, right? So, Lori, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely, you know, there's the what will it be and what you hope it'll be, so we'll go with what we'll hope. I think a workforce that is more representative of the population is a huge goal, and I think it could happen, especially if we are able to shift our priorities to a value proposition that benefits more of the population as well. I do believe, you know, we know that astronauts are very, very inspiring, and there is a place for that. It's just the balance. The 8% on Earth is just tough when you've got $21 billion that you could spend, I think, more effectively. So hopefully that will happen. For a long time, people have been saying that you will do a job in 10 years that's not been invented yet. There is no question that will even be the case now in 5. Change. Earthrise would not have been possible 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Literally, the algorithms are being written today based on the most current data. That's what's exciting. And where else to do it but space, and having the space program really recognize that what they bring us are the value of understanding our own home planet.
So I'm going to ask, this wasn't in your list, but I'll kind of ask because I'd love both your thoughts because you have both spent time in Washington, D.C. Are there policies that you think we should be thinking about that would help us get there faster? Are there things that we need? Because I always remind my team, anything we do around the world, and I get reminders from my customers where they say, look, we could really use your help with our policymakers in areas. And that's okay, right? You have to educate the policymakers. But do you all have kind of thoughts on things that you think would help us get there with the right kind of policies?
Yes, lots of thoughts on them. So I'll give a few examples. So get back as an educator, led for 10 years a program called Technology and Policy. So it's for engineers and scientists, but specifically to this point, because guess what? Policymakers should be technical people too.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to do better and get that message out, and training. People need different kind of training. It is different culture. So that's what we can do too, to make sure that people understand that they really do. They can't just stay in the lab and be a scientist. That they're the smartest person there and understand the data. Then I think it's incumbent upon them to help with policy, help inform policy.
Yeah.
They might not have to come to Washington all the time, but maybe a year fellowship or something like that, a few years, you know, to really get the right policies in shape. And I think, again, we would agree in terms of government institutions and innovation and some things that you can do there, because we need to accelerate the world, and the data is moving exponentially, but you know, some of our systems aren't moving as fast. I think there's a lot we can do.
Yeah.
I think it's first and foremost about the people saying yes. And as I said, let's just make it the yes one. You don't get to say no, especially middle managers. You don't get to say no. Say yes, but let's have the discussion, because that empowers people. They'll come with their wild, crazy ideas. If you just say, you know, great, Teresa, I want to know your craziest idea to help me. I want to help you solve a problem, or, you know, I have a problem. So I gave a word for failure.
Yeah.
I gave a word for failure. It's called fail smart.
Fail
I don't want to waste
fast,
any
fail
government money,
smart.
but it was fun, just to make sure that people, we have to get comfortable with just really, you know, doing your best, taking some risks. Those are a couple of mine.
I love that you're saying that, because we talk a lot about, in Congress, we want to help educate on the new path of technology and why it's important to not just our nation, but even our local communities, and being able, for us, it's about how can we get you there faster with knowledge. And I think the recommendation to have technology leaders on their staff to understanding, I love that idea, and just it kind of, you know, helps you move faster into the new world. So, your thoughts, Lori?
Oh, I think there are many policy things that we can do better. I would highlight that there has been some progress made. I think a lot of the policies we worked in at our time in NASA were continued. Public-private partnerships is a big one that has allowed for a lot of these advances that we both talked about, and we can do better. It's difficult for some people within the government to let go and to allow the private sector to step in and do something more innovative when they came to the government to play that role. So policies are needed to give the government that next thing to do that is more innovative and challenging for them, not to have them feel that they're not important. They continue to drive change. So specifically on earth sciences, to me, we spend a lot of money collecting data. And Dr. Jim Hansen, who was the head of the Goddard Space Institute when I started back at NASA in 2008 as the Obama transition team lead at the agency, told me that we collected enough data. What we really needed to do was model the data and spend money on applications. What do you do with the data? And that, I still think, is a huge problem. It's helped a lot to have the private sector step in. And we, in the government, have had to loosen our grip. And while that's hard, they're doing it. I mean, you guys are an example of that for sure. But to me, we don't need to stand back and say, oh, we're only measuring. We aren't going to do anything about it. Something needs to be done about it. And I, for one, trust the people who got us to the moon within a decade.
Yeah.
So we need everyone, for sure. But I think NASA has the best brand in the world,
They do.
deservedly so. And they can keep that current by taking the next hill.
Well, I was really bummed this morning. I got up, and my plan was to wear my NASA T-shirt that I bought just for today, and I could not find it. So I was going to have my NASA T-shirt under here.
Next time.
But I will tell you, all of our engineers, our computer scientists, our leaders, all of us love NASA at AWS. You have no idea. Anytime we talk about anything NASA, they all want to know how they can help. And I think that kind of tells you a lot about really smart engineers and computer science, and everybody that grew up with NASA and still really want NASA to be out there in a big way doing amazing things. Listen, you all are really wonderful. I so appreciate your time. I know everybody in the audience really learned something. So again, thank you guys. Let's give them a big hand. And I look forward to seeing you at the reception, and tomorrow you better get here early. We have like 17,000 people registered. So get here early, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you again.